It looks like the Trevor Bauer case of sexual assault going back to 2021, the case that ended his career with the Dodgers and caused him to be suspended from Major League Baseball. And even after no charges were filed, no team would sign him when the suspension was finally over, and he has had to go to play in Japan. But now, with the case over, it looks like he has never paid a single penny to the woman who's been trying to get money out of him this entire time, who says that he sexually assaulted her, showed those photos of her looking all messed up. He did put out a video a while back saying that she did not look like that, and it's complete falsehood, everything that she has said. But he can only comment so much. Now he's free to comment a lot more. He's put out a video. We will be checking out this video. The lawsuits are over. Neither Bauer nor the woman whose name is Lindsey Hill are getting any money. There were all kind of counterclaims and countersuits. It was just insane. But ultimately, no money is going to Lindsey Hill. And if we're to believe, which I kind of do, because the case is over, and if he's going to now just put out complete lies and, you know, fake text messages and fake photographs that are and all this that are not true, and his timeline's completely false, he's making up stuff, well, that opens up more lawsuits perhaps. So I kind of believe what's going on. I'm not saying Trevor Bauer made great decisions, not at all, you know, to sleep with just random women and to have whatever rough sex with women you don't know that well. It's not a very smart decision to even be in this situation. But let's take a look at this video and see what Trevor Bauer had to say.
Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers. A text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me. "What should I steal?" she asked another, in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer? Take his money. So how might that work? "I'm going to his house Wednesday," she said. "I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll." Then, after the first time we met, "Net worth is 51 mil, she said. "Bitch, you better secure the bag," was the response. But how is she going to do that? "Need daddy to choke me out," she said, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million.
So these are some new messages we haven't seen before. There were some text messages that were revealed to be potentially true and legit a couple years back, maybe a year and a half or so back, that I made a video on. These are even more damning. If we're to believe that these text messages are accurate, which I kind of do, this basically proves that she was out for money the entire time. And I say basically because, I mean, I can't prove they came from her or these are legit, but I kind of feel like he's not just making this up out of thin air, which would open up more lawsuits and more issues. I think that, especially when we find out that he's never paid her this entire time. Normally, when you are guilty at all in something, a situation like this, some famous person with millions and millions of dollars, they're just going to try to just settle the thing out of court, get it over with, and try to just move past it. But he has stood strong this whole time, did not get charged, has insisted on his innocence, and now we're seeing some of this here. And I'll get to MLB and their decision and some of my thoughts on how could he have still been suspended anyway. Didn't they do an investigation? I'll get to that in a minute.
Read another text. Then, after the second time we met, former Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, "You got to get this bag." "I'll give you $50,000, Lindsey replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, "Do you feel a tiny bit guilty?" "Not really," she replied. Since then, her legal team has approached me multiple times about coming to a financial settlement. But, as I have done since day one, I refuse to pay her even a single cent. In August of 2021, Lindsey Hill's claims were heard in court, and during those legal proceedings, critical information was deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. Information like this video, which was taken by Lindsey Hill herself the morning after she claimed she was brutally attacked, emotionally traumatized, and desperate to get away from me. And now we have the metadata, so there can be no dispute. It was taken mere minutes before she left my house on the morning of May 16th, 2021.
So that video right there says he's got the metadata. It can be proven. Now, I don't have the metadata. I'm not seeing all that data to prove it. But I'm saying that we're seeing her smirking, all happy, showing Trevor Bauer, like, look who I'm with, and that little smile, and you can see no injuries whatsoever. If that is the morning and she's about to leave after the supposed attack, that again completely proves Trevor Bauer didn't beat her to a bloody pulp like those photos showed. When you combine that with the text messages that he just shown, and along with the text messages we talked about back in the day, everything's kind of coming together that this was an attempt to get money out of Trevor Bauer, try to get him to engage in some rough sex with her, probably bloodied up her face, made it look like that, took the photographs and went for it. That's really what seemed like the truth here of what happened. Not saying that it was smart of him, again, to sleep with a girl he doesn't know too well, and much less to engage in rough sex. But I'm just saying, that's not illegal. Well, what she's tried to do should be, if it's true. Let's continue.
Without my knowledge or consent, of course. In it, you can see her lying in bed next to me while I'm sleeping, smirking at the camera without a care in the world, or any marks on her face. I think it paints a pretty clear picture of what actually happened the evening of May 15th and why the video was originally concealed from us. After hearing the evidence available to her, Judge Diana Gold-Saltman found that Lindsey Hill had misled the court. She found her claims to be materially misleading. She denied her request for a domestic violence restraining order, and she found that no sexual assault or non-consensual conduct took place. Now, some of you might not know about restraining order hearings. I know I didn't, but I've since learned that it's extremely rare for a request for a restraining order to be denied because the standard of proof that you need to obtain one is extremely low. So you can make of that what you will. The fact is, I was never arrested. I was never charged with a crime, and I won the only legal proceeding that took place without my side of the story even being heard. And most importantly, as I've said from day one, I never sexually assaulted Lindsey Hill, or anyone else for that matter. So I sued her, which prompted her to countersue me. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsey Hill could ever pay me in her entire life. And I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name.
So everything he's saying is accurate. He did win the only court proceeding regarding the restraining order. Talked about that. He has never paid her a single penny based on the fact that she couldn't get a single penny out of him. And then he's showing us, all this evidence, explaining things pretty clearly. It really does feel like Trevor Bauer got screwed here. I'm not saying he's a great person. That's not my point. I'm not saying, hey, bring Trevor Bauer. I want him on my team. I'm not saying that necessarily. I think Trevor Bauer has had, even before this whole thing happened, he was known as a kind of a controversial figure, controversial player, and that probably didn't help his cause when all this went down. But at the end of the day here, as he's explaining this, it does feel like this woman was out to get money. If those text messages are true at all, that proves it. That proves it beyond any shadow of a doubt.
The discovery process in that lawsuit recently concluded, at which point Lindsey Hill's legal team again came to us with another proposal to resolve the case. This time, however, they weren't seeking any money from me. Having received much of the information that had been hidden from us, a small portion of which I've referenced here, I was willing to agree to the terms proposed. Both parties would drop their respective lawsuits, and neither of us would pay either side any money. I also retained my right to speak publicly about the case, something I have not been at liberty to do since June of 2021. So, as of today, both lawsuits have been settled. Now, over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting. But hopefully this is the last time I have to do so, as I'd prefer to just remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
And there you have it. That's the statement from Trevor Bauer. Both sides go ahead and drop their lawsuits, agree to move on, but Trevor Bauer is allowed to speak about the case now. And with that evidence, with that video, and yes, we don't have the metadata in front of us to prove that that takes place when he said it did. So you could choose to believe this or not. You could choose to believe those text messages he showed or not. But I do believe those are probably accurate. And that what we kind of suspected as a strong possibility the entire time seems to be what happened. I try not to make a final judgment on it, but when charges were dropped, when he won his court case, I said, in my opinion, I don't think MLB should suspend him. He hasn't been charged. He never got charged with, if you're not charged, unless you got something serious, some kind of video, something serious. Now, MLB did their investigation, and we never were privy to that information that they discovered, that they decided he's going to be suspended. What was it, 2 years originally? Yes, it was originally 2 seasons. 2 seasons. So you have to figure that they must have found some serious shit on Trevor Bauer, right? I don't think so, because I kind of think that MLB, Rob Manfred, are very, very scared of any kind of cancel culture, any kind of this. They really react to big news, like when the All-Star game thing happened. I mean, I thought that was insane that they actually moved the All-Star game because of some Twitter got talking about it, about that Georgia law that came out, and they actually did it. Now, I know some people will agree with that because it was politically divided. My opinion was like, you're going to move the All-Star game over a law that people are arguing over. Has nothing to do with baseball, but what you're doing is you're stripping the All-Star game of the city, from the city of Atlanta and all those businesses. And to me, it didn't make sense moving it to Denver. I don't want to get back into that open that can of worms again, but I'm just saying the reaction by MLB and by Rob Manfred makes me think that they're just will react and do what they think they have to do, as far from a PR perspective, from a damage control perspective, trying to keep their reputation as good as they can with the people they think it needs to be good with, instead of just doing what's right and what makes sense. And with this case, no charges were filed. So that means the police, the law enforcement didn't have enough evidence that they felt that they had enough to charge Trevor Bauer. He won his only court case. And with what we're seeing, the evidence he's showing, seems like whatever investigation they did, you would think would have this, they would have discovered, hey, wait a second here. It looks like this girl might be just making up, trying to get money off him. Was that ever a possibility? Could MLB have come out and said, we did our investigation, we determined most likely Trevor Bauer, the only thing he did wrong was sleep with women he didn't know too well and kind of allow himself to be a victim, but he never, from what we can find out, we cannot prove that he actually assaulted anybody. In fact, the evidence shows more likely this woman was trying to just get money off of him, because that's what the evidence shows. They didn't have to even say all that. They could have just said, after our investigation, Trevor Bauer will be reinstated on this date. People would have got mad. They're scared. They're scared of people freaking out. And I don't know why. Do a fair investigation. I feel like maybe that wasn't a fair investigation. I admit, even I was like, man, Trevor Bauer sounds like a scary dude. I mean, I don't know what he's doing out there. And maybe he is, for all I know. There were a couple of at least one other case over in Ohio. There have been other cases of women coming out. So I don't know. Maybe he is a terrible person. I don't know that. But this particular case, the one that he got suspended for, from the evidence that he's showing there, tells me she was out for money. That's what it seems like. I cannot corroborate the evidence that he showed in that video, but I tend to believe it. And I lean towards Trevor Bauer being, in this case, most likely innocent of those charges and those claims. If those claims were true, with the investigation, with all the pressure, with all the hype, I believe that the DA wanted to charge him. The prosecutor wanted to charge him, and probably is like, man, they started discovering this evidence like, ooh, no, we can't charge him. Let's just drop charges and quietly and move on, because of what we just saw in that video. So ultimately, and I always said, we wanted to wait. I never thought that we'd get any more evidence, but Trevor Bauer's making some of this public. We'll see if there's a counter to some of the stuff that he showed. If she comes out or her lawyers come out and say, wait a minute, that's a bunch of crap, we'll see. So, that's always a possibility, but it sounds to me like she was out for money. It sounded to me like that was a strong possibility the whole time. And that video proves that. Look at that smirk on her face. Did she look scared? Did she look intimidated? She did not look worried at all. She looked like, hey, I'm about to cash out. That's what she looked like. That's just my take on it. And I'm not a Trevor Bauer fan, so I'm just telling you, I'm gonna play it straight. I'm gonna tell it to you straight. Trevor Bauer looks to be very much likely innocent here in this case. But MLB suspended him for 2 seasons. The suspension was reduced to 194 games, but from what I can see, again, I didn't do their investigation. I'm not privy to all the information, but from what I can see, that suspension should not have happened. If they wanted to do a 30-game thing or something, maybe, but what? For what? If this is true, what we're seeing, I think it was just a knee-jerk reaction. I think it was a sham investigation. That's what it's looking like. And MLB is very scared. They're scared of cancellation. They're scared to, you bring any big deal to, like, oh, we got to do this, we got to do that. They'll cancel games. They'll move all-star games. They'll suspend players. Under Rod Manfred and this whole system right there with MLB, they are terrified of cancel culture. They will react accordingly instead of just doing the right thing. That's what I think. That's what I think. And let me know what you guys think in that comment section down below for the final update here. Hopefully the final update in this Trevor Bauer saga. Again, I'm not a Bauer fan. I still don't want Bauer over here, but I do think he deserves to play back in Major League Baseball. Actually, I never thought he should have been suspended in the first place since he wasn't charged. But again, I know what MLB uncovered. I still technically don't know. But MLB, if you got something on Bauer, you better come out with it because you're not looking too good right now.